All right. Welcome, folks. We will give you all just a minute to get yourself connected to the audio so that way you can hear us. Perfect. All right, my name is Hannah. I am an admissions specialist at App Academy, and so I help students going through our admissions process. And then I am joined by two wonderful alumni from App Academy who are going to be talking about their experience today. So go ahead and please introduce yourselves. So we can start with Lily.
Hi everyone, my name is Lily. I started App Academy supposed to be offline, but I actually moved to an online program because of COVID, obviously. In San Francisco last year and graduated this year. Currently, I'm a software engineer at Google.
Perfect. And Nyki.
Hi everyone, I'm Nyki. I joined App Academy in June of 2020. And so it's been pretty much a year since I've graduated, and I am a software engineer at The RealReal.
Awesome. Well, folks, as we are going through our Q&A today, we want to give you the chance to ask these wonderful folks any questions that you have. So any questions that you have that you'd like to ask, please post them. I just submitted the link in the chat. Please go to that link for the Slido for our Q&A today if you have any questions you would like to ask. But we will go ahead and jump in and get started, starting with your backgrounds. So before App Academy, did you go to college? What did you major in? How do you feel this impacted your experience at App Academy? Let's start with Lily.
Sure. I graduated from college at 2016 with a business degree and a philosophy minor. And then after that, I worked in several different industries like finance, marketing, nothing related to programming. Before joining App Academy, my technical experience is that I took some Coursera classes online, which is called Python for Everyone.
Awesome. Nyki.
I also went to college. I studied illustration at Academy of Art in San Francisco. My first role out of college was writing my own ebook on social media marketing and illustrating it. So needless to say, I was not in the tech field at all. And then got a job doing content moderation for an art tech company where I got exposed to engineering. I don't have any technical background, although I did play with HTML and CSS back in the MySpace days, making my profile better than all of my other middle school friends. So I think that new exposure to engineers actually brought that back, and I decided to join App Academy.
Awesome. And tying that into as well, Lily, can you talk about what got you interested in coding? How did you get to software engineering and to App Academy?
Yeah, definitely. I think it started with actually when I was like 5 or 6 playing video games. You could like input this cheat code inside it. So like that's one aspect of programming. You put some code into it and then the outcome changes. That's how I started. And then I'm always a big fan of technology. And then after taking some Python classes on Coursera, I thought it's not that hard.
Absolutely. And so a lot of people have this idea that you have to start coding really, really early in order to become a software developer. Obviously, this is not necessarily the case for both of you. How did you how was the program, like as far as no coding experience going straight into an intense boot camp? Do you feel like it affected you at all? Do you feel like it was enough to get you through it? How do you feel like the program was because of that background? Feel free, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I can go. Oh, sorry, Lily.
No, you go ahead.
So I would say that because I had no background, I decided to do App Academy's bootcamp prep. And I felt like that course really helped me prepare for App Academy in general because it's by App Academy. So I felt like that really put me in a good spot. And I really enjoyed the fact that it was in JavaScript. And then we actually started the course in Ruby. So for me personally, that was really nice. So then it was like I got exposure to 2 languages very quickly. And then the switch over to JavaScript wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. So I personally would really recommend going that route if you don't have like much coding background and if it's something that you really could see yourself doing. So that was my experience.
I would say that you do not have to have coding experience before joining App Academy. But there is a difference. I had classmates who has a CS background, and obviously he like just learns things much better and faster than me. But I would say that for me, I joined App Academy with very little coding experience. It was tough and difficult, but App Academy definitely has provided enough resources for me to success, as long as I work hard. I definitely do have classmates who, didn't have much experience and, too shy to ask questions or like just didn't work as hard. And it was really hard for them. So, to sum up, yes, you can success with zero coding experience before joining App Academy. And that's precisely the reason why it is a good idea to join a coding bootcamp like this, because there are a lot of helps. And a funny story to share, is that before joining App Academy, I actually tried to learn coding by myself because every information is online, and even for App Academy, there is a thing called Open App Academy where you can basically learn coding by yourself. But I failed so many times, and I only succeed after joining App Academy. So that tells a story there of the value of actually joining a program like this, where the resources is great, and especially the support that you cannot really get anywhere else from the internet. At least the App Academy TAs, you cannot really get them from other places.
Well, that is a very perfect tie into kind of the next set of questions here, which is, what was the actual program itself like? Like, what was the day to day? What did it look like from morning until going to sleep? Whoever wants to go. Lily, do you want to go?
Yeah. For me, I would say that I wake up, I start coding, and then I go to bed. That's pretty much it. But that's not necessary nor required. I did that because I really, really, really want to be the best of the class, and I want to be like just absolutely the best. Back then I didn't know much, but I wanted to get into a big company like Google. So with that in mind, I just tried very, very hard. If you only want to pass the class, you really do not have to do that. But I would say that dedication is definitely required.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that sentiment. I did the same. I would wake up, code, and then before I knew it, my day was over. Maybe I took like an hour in the middle of the day because they give you an hour for lunch. I think I would like go walk my dog, and then that was like my only time. But I actually really enjoyed it because I felt like being completely immersed uh, in that environment is really good for you, because the only thing that you're thinking about is programming. And for someone who doesn't have any coding background, it was really helpful to just always have that in the back of my mind of, oh, like I stepped away for a second and now I know how to solve that problem. Like I felt like that happened to me all the time. And so yeah, I just really think that the whole entire boot camp process for me was very rigorous. I didn't really plan on being the best like Lily. I planned on getting through it, but I do feel like I probably put in a similar amount of effort. And there were people that, maybe didn't and maybe are, still struggling to get that first job or whatever. So I feel like I got, you get out what you put in, I guess is what I'll say.
Absolutely. And so how did you manage that? What was your plan? Did you structure your day out? Did you structure like homework time, or was it literally just, I'm going to stare at this computer all day, every day, and that's it? Like, how did it go?
I mean, for me personally, I'm someone who struggles with depression and anxiety. And I've had this ever since I was like a youngin. So it's always been something that I had to factor into my, you know, anything. And I think especially because, you know, it's a boot camp, it's an intensive environment. I did really have to carve out time for myself to make sure that I was taking care of my mental health and my physical health, because I think those are related. Um, so, I mean, for me, it was wake up, code, but I think every programmer experiences this. Sometimes you look at the same thing over and over and you get nowhere. And sometimes you really need to like step away from your desk for 2 minutes. Maybe you go get a drink of water. Maybe you go outside and just like take a breath of fresh air. Even if it's like these little tiny moments throughout the day, those can really help you reset. So I didn't necessarily structure my day. I just was App Academy, homework, and then play around and try and figure out what I can make with whatever I learned, and then go to bed.
What about you, Lily?
Yeah, I would say so there are two parts of App Academy. One is the learning how to code part, and the other part is the career search part. Um, I would say in a learning how to code part, there is not much like self structure required because the day is pretty full. Like you wake up, like maybe you have 1 hour to. I typically walk my dog, and while I'm walking my dog, I read some Ruby documentations, learning some APIs about Ruby, or like just trying to figure out something that I want to know. And then like you go to class, that's basically whole day, and after class it's like 5, and then you do some homework. Try to do not save your questions to the next day because they definitely do not pay dividends. So then I use that time to bother my TA or my classmates and try to figure out the questions, and then that's bedtime.
Nice. And so what was the experience with the instructors and the TAs like? How did you get assistance if you needed it? What was that like?
Lily, do
Go
you
for it.
go first?
Like how I think it's pretty straightforward, right? You have a question and then you ask the TAs and they'll either like get your response or like they'll figure it out, and if they don't know. I think it's a good practice because it turns out to be very difficult to describe a technical question. And sometimes it is very hard to ask the right question because sometimes you think problem is it lives in A, but it's actually a B, and then you figure out it turns out to be C. So learning how to ask questions, how to describe it, what is the right correct question to ask. You try to avoid it's like too general, like how do I solve this problem, or like too specific, like what is the API to, I don't know, pop the last element in that array, which you could Google by yourself. So definitely that's an aspect to learn. But beyond that, most TAs are just very helpful and supportive and encouraging.
Were they available like all day, every day, just during class? What did the kind of assistance look like?
My TA, who is absolutely amazing, he tries to be 24 hours 7 day available, but he's not. But generally speaking, I feel like everyone is trying to work extended hours. But on the other hand, I would not expect them to like always immediately respond to my question, and learning how to Google is definitely a great skill to have. So.
And Nyki, what was your experience like?
Yeah, so I feel like the TAs obviously are very knowledgeable and awesome people. I loved all of my TAs. I will say the process was a little different because I signed up for the in-person program, but I actually did it online because of COVID. So I was expecting when I first went in, that you would be able to, kind of like tap a TA on the shoulder and be like, hey, I have a question. Or maybe you could even do that to another classmate and say like, oh, what'd you guys do for this? We're stuck on it. But that like kind of environment didn't fully exist. And I'm not sure what the program looks like now, like maybe they've added like new things to it. But when I was a student, it seemed you really had to like push and make an effort to connect with other students virtually. So that shoulder tap wasn't really there. So instead you might ping them on Slack, or for a TA to get them to ask your question, you actually wait in a queue. And so you're kind of waiting for your question to get answered. And in that time, you might be Googling, you might be trying to ping other students. And so although the TAs are accessible, they're also somewhat inaccessible, which actually I found was very beneficial because that really cultivates self-learning. And I've noticed more on the job, that's typically what it is as well. There's no, TA that's going to magically come around and solve your problem. You have to figure it out. That's your job. So it really does like prep you for what comes next. So I actually really appreciated the process and what it was.
Yeah. What was so I know another major part of the program is pair programming. You're working with the other students in your class. What was the pair programming like? Tell me about it.
I can go first on this one. I actually pride myself on this statistic, but I guess I graduated with the second highest like pairing score in my cohort. Which made me feel really good. But I actually really loved pairing, and that was probably my favorite part of the program because you get exposed to so many different types of people. You're paired with someone new every single day. And it just goes to show how differently people think and how that can actually be an asset to you. And the whole goal of pairing, right, is to share what you know and then gain knowledge from them. So you're really not like stuck in your own way, which I actually really appreciated. And I just felt like pairing in general was kind of like the few ways that you really got to know the people in your cohort remotely. So, maybe having that like extra time in the beginning to ask them about their lives or get to know them for a second kind of broke you out of this like, oh, we're only here to learn thing. And it felt good to connect with people on a personal level. So then when you actually did go to pair and something difficult came up, you guys could make a joke and laugh together. So that was always a really important thing. Also, I pair every day. So I think it also prepped me for what my future would be.
Lily, what about you?
I would say that pairing itself can be frustrating sometimes, actually. Because everyone, it has pros and cons. I would put it in this way because there's so many different types of people. Me myself have to learn how to communicate with them and how to like work with them. So at the time, it can definitely be frustrating, but I would say that looking back now, it's definitely beneficial. And knowing that you only have to do it for 3 months definitely helps.
Absolutely. And so I know you guys have been talking a lot about the course itself. We've talked a little bit about, pairing and other students. Is there anybody that you're still friends with? Like, do you have cohort mates like that you've stuck with, or do you kind of go your separate ways? How has it been like now?
Yeah, I can go ahead. I made some friends and we still talk with each other. There's actually one guy I just talked with today. His name is Will Wang. He got his first job and now he's switching to his second, and while switching he was asking my like opinions about job search and this and that, because like he got his job first and then half year later I got mine and now he's switching. So that was a lot of fun. And also after I got into Google, I actually referred one of my classmates from App Academy to Google interview as well.
Nice. Nyki, what about you?
I have a similar story. I feel like although I liked many people from my cohort, only a few really kind of stuck around in my life. But I have one who like really loves to bake cake, and she'll send me frozen cakes via FedEx every once in a while. So I have to say that was like an amazing friend to make. But yeah, I think a lot of people, maybe you don't keep in touch with everyone, but the thing that I really enjoy about App Academy is that you have access to Slack. And so that never dies either. So you always have access to those people and you can always connect with them and be like, where are you now? So it's actually pretty fun. And yeah, I love the people that I met, although it was virtual. I feel like those were real connections, and I'm excited to one day meet some of them in person.
Hopefully in a future world, right? We're getting there. And so talking about the program, Lily, you mentioned before, it's not just the learning part of it. There is also a job search afterwards, finding a position in software engineering, which is kind of its own whole ball game. So first, what was the transition like between program to job search? What encompassed that? What was that like?
Yeah, I think, well, first, coding and job search require very different skill sets. And the transaction, well, since I graduated from college, I also like did job search before, so the whole process is not like so strange to me. However, it was still very different because because now I'm searching for a job that related to code. I would say that the career coaches are really helpful and they provide a lot of resources. They're supportive and encouraging, and they're just kind of always there when you need like either mental support or like, actual technical support. So I say that I rely on them a lot during the process, and also during that process, it's definitely more self-planning and self-discipline compared to the learning how to code phase. Because you do like arrange your day, you have a lot of freedom to arrange the materials that you work on. For example, if you're shooting for a flag company versus you're shooting for a smaller company, the strategies that you want to sharp yourself is actually very different. So things like that, they'll all talk about it.
And what about you, Nyki? What was that transition like from the program into getting into and starting the job search? What was in there?
Yeah, so as soon as you graduate that day of, I went straight into working on all my projects. My first thing was like get all of those polished, get them to look amazing, so then I can really focus on applying to jobs and like really putting out quality applications. Um, I will say the transition was strange, partially because you're so used to meeting with everyone every single day. You're used to waking up at a certain time. And that's helpful because then that kind of like puts you on a roll to do it on your own. But I will say, if you're not a self-driven person, I can imagine it'd be very difficult for you. Like for me, I'm the type of person that has a checklist and a planner. I have my own Trello boards where I'm keeping track of my own progress. So for me personally, it was, pretty normal, especially being an artist, having that background, that's also a very self-driven career. So it wasn't so difficult, but I can imagine it might. And then, yeah, I would structure my day, like wake up in the morning, get out all my applications, and then really spend the rest of the day learning algorithms and making sure that when an interview did come, that I would nail it.
Wonderful. What was the kind of job search process like? Like, what did you do with the career coaches? What did you do every day, like to make that happen, to get that job?
Well, I love my career coach. I would say that we're like still friends. I actually, talk to him quite a bit. But yeah, the process was really up to you. They encouraged you to, send out a certain amount of applications. They had events going on pretty much daily where you could show up to like a study hall where you could, pair with other people who are on their job search, help them with their projects. Get help with yours. You also had pair boarding where you could just, do algorithms with other people, see how they solved problems. And then you would have like kind of a closer knit circle that you would meet with more frequently. And those people were also, conducting their job search, and you would hear about their progress. And so it would be, motivating. And I really enjoyed that too. It's always nice to see people from your cohort kind of move on and succeed because that gave you hope for you. And so, yeah, that was always a really fun thing. And I think the most important thing for me personally was having that good relationship with my job coach. And I feel like there was a time where I was frustrated because I didn't have a job yet. But I feel like my career coach really heard me out, and we came up with a plan together of how to really do it. And then I swear, like a week later, I walked away with an offer. So it really is what you put into it.
Lily, what was your kind of day to day like? What did you do to finally get that job offer?
My job search was actually quite long, so there were different phases. So at the beginning, which I really like about having career coaches, is that they give me a target of like how many application I need to send, how many reaches. So like I start by trying to do them, and then later like kind of have a better feeling of what I'm doing. So very similar to Nyki, I have a to-do list, or on the internet, if you search for get things done, that's basically how the system works. You write down something you need to do, and then after you finish it, you cross it out, and then you like cheer for yourself or whatever. So basically the idea is that you try to create this loop where you do a task, and then you feel happy about it, and then you keep doing another task, you feel happy about it. So that get things done strategy is my main strategy among my job search. I would say, like, I write things that I need to do, and then I get every one of them done. So I do not think about like, am I not good enough, like am I a bad person, am I just stupid. I try to not think about those feelings because they don't help. Also, another thing that Nyki mentioned, which I strongly agree, is that having friends or people who are in similar situation with you to like just keep the morale up. For me, I just joined like so many social media groups where people are also like either doing lead code or searching for jobs. Like I talk to them when I feel like I'm very disencouraged or like frustrated, and then like everyone's being very encouraging. And another strategy I use during job search I think really helpful is that keep dreaming. I followed a bunch of people who work at Google on social media who like love to post their jobs, basically because I really want to get into Google and I needed something to keep myself up. So whenever I feel like I really want to give up, I just like start to like go through their pages, like see how amazing their life is, and then I can work hard again because there's something to look for.
That's a really good point. Keeping yourself motivated. I know that part of the job search is not only a lot of applications, but then also a lot of rejections. So, how did you? So, Lily, it sounds like that's kind of how you kept yourself motivated. But overall, how did you keep yourself de-stressed? How did you keep yourself going when things kind of got very rough and in the mud?
um, I would say two things. So first, it is really important to recognize what helps to achieve my goal and what doesn't. When I have the feeling of like being stressful or being frustrated or getting rejected, thinking I'm not good enough, that feeling does not help me to achieve my goal. So I recognize them, but then I try to not think about them because I'm thinking, yeah, I can use that time to improve myself, and that which is a better investment that gets me to what I want. So like really think about where you should invest your time to, and whether what you're investing is going to help you to achieve the goal is one of my strategy. And the other one, I would say that don't take the rejection personally, in the sense that a lot of times it's kind of like a relationship. It's about fitting rather than if you're good, not, if you're good enough or what. But of course, you could, in a certain degree, you could argue that, if I work harder, maybe things would be different. So there is a balance there to not take it personally, in the sense that once you got rejected and then immediately become like frustrated and all self-denial, but also like critically, I myself would recognize, oh, I'm rejected maybe because I do not know, for example, JavaScript very well, and then I would put more time into learning and perfecting my skills, which goes back to my point one, like really figure out like the thing you're trying to do, whether that thing actually help you to achieve your goal.
Awesome. What about you, Nyki?
Yeah, I mean, the rejection process for me, the same thing. I tried to not take it personally. And I think for me also, it only kind of hurt when it was a company that I liked. Because I mean, realistically, right, you're sending out like 50 applications a week to really just kind of get your name out there and see kind of what traction you get and then what you can work on. What you're really looking for in a lot of those initial applications is feedback, and then seeing how far you get in the process and then where you need to improve. Like I know a lot of people in my cohort would get to the behavioral interviews and completely fail because they weren't ready for that. But they nailed the coding ones. But sometimes you have to be a fun person to work with too. So I do feel like the rejections only hurt for a very tiny portion of the companies that I applied to, or the ones that I put in a lot of work for. That didn't fully amount to anything, but you almost have to always just change your mindset on it. Like if I put in a ton of work for a company where, you know, they had me do this like huge coding challenge, at least I learned something. So I would always walk away being like, oh, well, I didn't know how to use that, you know, like extra library before. And now I have experience. Maybe I'll just add it to my resume, or maybe I'll add that on my GitHub. And it's just another project and another tool in your tool belt. And then I think also like during the times where I would get down on myself, like not gonna lie, like I cried. Everyone has like a good cry from time to time, but you get in the bubble bath, you journal about it, and then you come back the next day and everything's gonna be fine. So for me, it was just like, I know I'll get one eventually as long as I keep trying.
Yeah, definitely some good advice. Bubble bath, I like it. One question from someone in the chat. What do you think was the most important thing that helped you get your current job?
Yeah, I'll answer first. And I mean, this is also, I think, why I had such a good relationship with my career coach. I'm not the best technically. I have a lot of like front end skill, you know, but back end honestly scares me quite a bit. It's like a little intense. Even now, like I'm a little timid. But yeah, I wasn't like the best at algorithms. I wasn't the best at challenges, but every behavioral question that I answered, I felt like I always had a really great response for. And I felt like every time that I interviewed, and especially in my current role, when I interviewed with people, I would really just try and make them laugh and have a good time with them. If there was like a funny like variable name I used while coding, I would like bring it back and be like, oh, ha ha ha, like let's use this one again. So I feel like just being yourself and being a fun person to work with definitely set me apart. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to work with, you know, someone that they're happy being around. Otherwise, you know, who wants to come to work every day? So yeah, that was definitely, I think, what set me apart.
Yeah. What about you, Lily? What was like the most important thing that you felt got you to your current job?
I would say two things. So first, I dare to try. I guess it's one thing. I say that looking back because I after I got into Google, a lot of friends asked me for referrals or like how did I get in. And a lot of them, after I tell them like how I prepared, they're like, "Oh, that sounds very hard. I'm not gonna get in," or they'll be like, "I'm not good enough." They will say like, "Maybe I'll wait another year to apply for it." And thank you so much. I'll definitely keep contact with you and definitely ask you for referral next year. But like when I was trying to get into Google, people would say like, my career coach told me like, Lily, you know, like it's really bad to put all your eggs in one basket and it's really difficult. You know, people say all things like that, but I just dared to try and it worked out. And if you really think about it, at the end of the day, what's the worst outcome of me trying to go through a Google interview? I fell and then I have to apply another year. And versus if I didn't try at all and then I apply next year, which is the same thing. So why not? So I think the first thing is really like shoot for the moon. You can try it. There's nothing bad gonna happen except you get rejected and apply another year, which is gonna happen anyway. And the second thing is that I do not let frustration stop me from working, which happens quite easily to a lot of people, including myself. But I try really hard to not let that emotion stop me from working. Um, I remember there's another company I really liked. I got rejected. And after that, I feel like there's no way I'm going to pass a Google interview. I feel really frustrated. But I remember me crying and still trying to figure out how to do legal questions at that day. And there's another day I got my COVID vaccine and I had this like worst headache ever. And I was still trying to work on legal questions because, algorithm is a big part. So I don't let other things stop me from working, and I put a lot of work to it. I think those two things, like shoot for moon and work hard.
Absolutely. I think Nyki said it too. You get out of it what you put into it. And so kind of, wrapping things up here, how long did it eventually, take you to get that job? How many applications was it? Whoever wants to go.
I think for me, I think in total, I only really sent out about like 200 applications. And I think I got my job like within 3 months. So I think I did it fairly quickly, but I didn't factor in the fact that I did take a break right after App Academy where I didn't do anything. So like realistically, it was more around like 5 or 6. Yeah, but 3 months, not so bad. Pretty pretty quick actually.
And Lily.
I would say my experience really similar to Nyki's. So I took a break after App Academy because it was so intense, and but I sent out about 700 or 900 applications at a time because I took a break and my classmates didn't. So they all got the job at the time I started. And so I had to work extra hard because I felt I was very behind. That's where the 900 application come from. And you definitely do not have to do that number to get a job, I promise you. But for real preparation, it's about 3 to 4 months, including like all the things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Some questions from our chat. If you could start over now, what would you do differently? Program wise, job search wise, however you want to take that.
I don't think there's anything, like, first of all, I don't want to start over. Second, because it is really meaningful, but it's not that happy during the process. It's a lot of it concurring, a lot of struggling. I love the outcome more than I love the feeling in the middle of the process. But what would I do differently? I guess like believe in myself more, because there's no way I can avoid hard work. And I wish I doubt myself less. I wish I had less imposter syndrome. Even for when I started at Google, like I feel that I got lucky. I still feel I got lucky. But really looking back, just believing in yourself more, ask more questions. People are willing to help amazingly. So yeah.
Yeah, I second that as well. I feel like I definitely did not have a lot of confidence in myself, and I'm not sure if it comes from like being a female, having no tech background. I think once I saw like the people in my cohort, there was a lot of men, a lot of them had CS degrees, a lot of women had CS degrees. Even if they weren't in computer science, they had some type of like engineering background. And then here I was like an artist. I was very scared. The entire time I would be like, oh, like, I don't know what to do. But yeah, I think that's probably the only thing I would change as well. I think having faith in yourself is really important. And then I think also I wish that I spent a little bit more time getting to know like the ins and outs of a program before I joined App Academy. I feel like I knew how to do algorithms, but I didn't really understand like where it applied to actual like stuff that I would play with or use on a regular basis. So I feel like having that context before you go in can be really helpful, even if you're just building something like really easy, like a little front end application. But having that context as to what you're learning when you're learning it, I think would be a lot more helpful for me, because I was learning both what the thing was and how to do it and what it was used for, when I probably could have just learned the thing. So that was probably the only thing that I would change, but I wouldn't change the timing that I did it. I wouldn't change how I did my job search, because at the end of the day, I love my job and I'm still at it. So I wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome. And then any last minute advice for folks? Any last words that you would like to tell someone who's maybe interested or thinking about doing a boot camp or doing App Academy?
I think I'm a little biased because I also did the I did the admissions portion for like prospective students when I was conducting my job search. So I would say my biggest advice is, if your sole concern of joining App Academy is to have a big old fat salary at the end when you get your offer, I mean, like, yes, that's part of it, but that shouldn't be your motivator for becoming a software engineer. I feel like it's a very nice thing to want to have like financial stability, but at the same time, once you get to the job, you probably won't like it. If that was your only motivator, you really have to be someone who enjoys building, enjoys communicating with people, someone who really likes mechanical keyboards. So I would just say, like, make sure that you actually get lost in the moment of coding. And if you sit down at the computer and hours go by and you don't notice, that's how you know that you love it and that you will thrive in App Academy.
And Lily.
I would say that like getting things done is very important. Like I feel like a lot of my classmates who are not doing so well in the class, sometimes they don't get things done and they spend time thinking about things like, oh, I'm gonna fail. But with the time thinking about that kind of thing, get things done, would making progress would actually be better. So and especially since like recently there's so many people like ask my advice and then like they just tell me that they're so scared, and then they let that scariness stop them. I just feel very sorry for them. So definitely, try to get things done, which is the most important thing.
Instead of just do it, we're going to have get things done from Lily.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Well, we are wrapping up our time here, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our alumni for joining us and talking about their experience and giving their time to us. If you have any questions on anything, your admissions specialist, if you submitted an application, we are happy to help. Always reach out, and lots of places to reach out on the website as well. Schedule a call if you need anything. And we will be posting this on YouTube as well. So we record these. We like to post them on YouTube so other students can get a view if they missed it tonight. So check that out. That'll be up in a couple days. And thank you so much, everybody. And thank you to Lily and Nyki. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your evening and a good weekend going into Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Take care, everybody.